I built a whip that crushes bones, the world's most powerful whip by MikeShake. Let's watch something get whipped.
What are we even watching?
How dangerous whips
Wait. I should make myself smaller so we can make sure we can see. There we go.
are. And so I learned to use and so I learned to use one. And even though it's really powerful, when I tried
This is why whips scared the shit out of me. There was a lot of whips on the farm I grew up on, or in like the neighboring farms. Yeah, imagine if that hit your nuts, you'd be down. They hurt. They can cut skin really badly. It would hurt. Does the nuts
reaching
explode?
a cracker, which is a tiny nylon
I think like they would, right? It exploded the apple, right?
rope at the end of the whip with a steel wire. The damage got definitely higher. And so I started wondering if a whip was entirely
Okay, that's dirty. He put a wire in the end so it cracks harder? Oh yeah, I've hurt myself with whips. My sisters have chased me with a whip whipping me, so yeah, I've felt it.
made of stronger and heavier materials compared to a normal one, and it would still be able to travel as fast as a normal whip. Could it slice through anything?
I mean, it was
Like if he was-
deserved. You don't know it was deserved. My older sisters were mean. I was not deserved. They just thought it was funny.
Blade? Well, I have a ballistic dummy, so now I only needed the strong whip.
I think it was just a basic. It kind of looked like his first one, made out of leather and stuff. I don't know what they used it for, honestly. Like because it was from another person's farm. Because most common was cattle and horses, but knowing what I know now, I can't imagine using a whip on a horse. No, there is kind of a horse training that they use a whip, right? Like, I don't know.
At first, I wanted to buy one, so I started looking for it online, and I found just a few.
Yeah, see, the school kid ones, they keep it a bit more censored, but these were like us being dumped at farms while they did work or doing work for farms as children. So, like, yeah, they definitely let us do very dangerous things.
Still whips, but they're not actually whips. What I found was a lot of videos of Asian guys cracking massive chain whips, but the problem with something like that is obviously the weight. That chain is probably impossible to lift, and that
What? I'm surprised that still whips, right? The school children where they showed us whip shows. Yeah, from a trained professional, they're very impressive. Came off somewhere though, so maybe I should get one of these metal.
makes it the deadliest weapon in the world to use against ant colonies. I got nothing against ants
real
though.
money is made. We put your face on everything, Del. The t-shirt, comic book, lunchbox, breakfast cereal, the flamethrower. Not an actual product. Even if it was made, it would be Nerf or nothing. The kids love this one. And finally, the doll pull string. Hi, I'm Del, a cute bunny VTuber. Era, I am cute.
I'm cute. Imagine coming out with something I couldn't even have in my own country, like a flamethrower.
And I wanna be able to crack my whip mid-air, because they do this like mosquitoes.
Take that.
So I couldn't
The
find
most inefficient way to kill mosquitoes.
anybody that was selling the whip I was looking for. Maybe because it's a bad idea, probably because it's dangerous for everything and everyone around me and me, but I guess there was only one way to find out. I was gonna have to build it myself and then compare it to the normal whip by testing
It might be because it's dangerous for me and everyone around me, but who knows? Who knows?
both against a bunch of different targets. So to make the whip as powerful as possible, the first step was to figure out how whips actually work. And after a while, I found a few articles and videos that explained exactly what I needed. Basically, when you swing a whip, your hand and the handle of the whip move relatively slow, but they also generate momentum.
Yeah, it is kind of a saying these were used on people in a lot of different countries. It's kind of crazy.
Is the
Text
loop
boomerangs,
you see
take one to
there.
the face.
And a few years ago, this guy basically said that the momentum at the beginning and at the end of the whip has to stay the same. But since the base of the whip is much heavier than the tip, the only way momentum can stay the same is by increasing the speed. So the loop needs to travel faster and faster as the section of the whip gets smaller, till it gets to the cracker, a tiny light rope that travels really fast, like 900 miles per hour fast. So basically, instead of whip,
all of America have like slaves or whatever that they whipped? I don't know. And then it just got less and less popular or something? For the love of God. Because the British had slaves too, and then it just got more and more less popular, and then it was outlawed. That's usually how it goes. I heard 19 mice per hour? What does that mean?
A big mass with low speed turns into a really high speed when the mass is small. For this reason, when buying all the materials, I looked for something really heavy for the base of the whip and lighter for the tip. Something more durable and more dense than a normal whip, but also flexible, so that it could still move very fast. And also
Don't tell them what I'm challenging them to, Luca. God damn it.
goggles. So for the body of the whip, I went with progressively smaller wire ropes. A 6mm one, a 4mm one, and a 2mm one. And then a tiny wire rope that I was gonna use as the cracker of the whip. Somebody actually already makes self-defense weapons out of wire ropes. And they are really cute. Because now, imagine that, traveling faster than the speed
I
of
can
sound.
almost automatically feel it being banned in Australia. You're not allowed anything in Australia for self-defense.
But the main reason I picked wire ropes is because they are heavier than the classic materials used for a whip. And since they're flexible, I believe they could still create the loop and behave exactly as a
Yeah, like
whip
that
does.
looks like the stuff they use in like the Hitman games and stuff to choke out people. A self-defense. That's a good one. I like this. See, they'll ban a snake, huh? A pet crocodile said he's for self-defense. I know, right? Like so many things that I just like, but it can cause bodily harm. It's like, yeah, you know what can cause bodily harm? Someone attacking me, bitch.
And to make sure the whip was gonna be as powerful as possible, to increase the weight even further, I got this big chain that I actually stole from my bike. And the plan was to place it right after the handle. I knew chains could work as whips, thanks to the ant killer guys. But I still wanted to double check that and see how he behaved. And I almost lost my knee while doing that. Okay, maybe I'm being too dramatic. My plan was to make the new whip about as long as the latter one. A shorter whip would probably be easier to handle, which wouldn't be
I
too
can
bad.
literally feel myself whipping myself in the face or something. These scared the shit out of me trying to do this as a kid.
Because when I spanked myself with a normal whip, I basically just stopped thinking and I felt the need to leave.
Good pussy, thanks so much for the resub, homie. Let's go, 12 months. Crazy. Wait a minute. I was reading something. Did I miss him whipping himself in the ass? I must go back.
Would probably be easier to handle, which wouldn't be too bad. Because when I spanked myself with a normal whip,
He did. I didn't quite see it until his reaction because it went behind him, so I didn't see it smacked himself in the ass. I bet he's like, nah, I'm not. I don't think I could get into BDSM actually. I don't think I could do it.
I basically just stopped thinking and I felt the need to leave because of the pain. And I don't want to even think about what would happen with the steel one. But a shorter whip
I
would
just had
also be less
to. It hurt so bad. I just had to leave. I just had to.
powerful.
I'm
So,
not
yeah.
a fan
So,
of pain either,
I
Luca.
cut the 4 ropes. 2 meters for the big one, 1.5 for the medium one, 1.2 for the small one, and then a few centimeters for
What a
the
multi-use cutter. It's been 1,000 years. Manly
cracker.
God of
And
War
like
makes me
that,
amazing.
I ended up with a total length of 3 me and about 1 foot.
The editing to make that one joke.
Plus the chain and the handle that I'm gonna realize I didn't take into account later. Now the hardest part was putting them together. At first, I thought about welding them, but since the ropes are really thin, I feared they would just melt. Moreover, I went back home for Christmas, and I have no idea where my father keeps the welding machine. Luckily though, there are a bunch of ways to connect wire ropes together. It must be that somebody had my same idea of making a powerful whip, and they ended up making bridges. Anyways,
Yes, that's how we got bridges. We wanted to make a powerful whip, and he was just like, you know what? I could make a bridge out of this. I consider our marriage annulled most of the time. I don't know. Now you have a whole attention regarding physics. Physics!
my top priority for this was to find a connection that would let the ropes move freely, without interrupting the loop. My second priority was that it looked kinda good, and my third priority was that the connections were strong enough to resist the stress, avoiding
I find it very funny that a lot of like mechanically minded people or engineers aren't engineers anymore. They're on YouTube making fun stuff. Where's all our engineers go? Sir, they're on YouTube making whips.
supersonic steel ropes into my neighbor's garden. Spoiler, I think I failed the last one. And for all those reasons, I decided to go with swag sleeves. Sorry, swage sleeves. These are commonly used for...
My dick is uncomfortably erect.
Nep_how just subscribe. Upgrading their cell.
steel wires. And even though they don't look too solid to me, when installed properly, the strength of termination is 90%
mic on.
of
I said, "Hey Nip, thanks for the 15 month. I haven't seen you in ages, homie." And I don't know if it turned off when it was saying, "Shut the fuck out." I know I was muted. I know I was muted. I don't know what it muted. It's gonna say she muted. It was an accident. It was an accident. Shut up. But I was like, yeah, I haven't seen you in ages. Nep, if that cut off, I don't remember when it was muted. And it's like, thanks to the hype train, we're erect. There we go. So sad. And yeah, I imagine, Noel, that it's a lot of like repetitive stuff in engineering, right? Where you have to do the same thing, checking the same stuff a lot. Sorry, guys. I'm a bad streamer.
the breaking strength of the cable, when installed properly. Did I already say that? There are also different kinds of connections, like these clamps, but I figured dangerous spikes and supersonic whips wouldn't go well together. And so I picked the option of the switch sleeves, and I tried to make the eye as tight as possible so that it wouldn't slow down or stop the loop of the whip. Then I connected all the cables together, and the last step was to secure the switch sleeves. To do that, you need to crimp them, using the switch tool. And like that, the body of the whip was basically ready. This was the easiest and fastest way I could find to connect all the cables together, and I was actually surprised and happy that it worked. For like 5 minutes, because in that moment, I started to have a few doubts that almost made me quit this entire idea. Basically, I randomly tried moving the rope like a whip, and I noticed the connection between the cables was making the system bend on itself, while a
Yeah, that I would imagine so. Neps seems like it might also be bad for YouTube. What would Nep? Doesn't it sound like nip? Make sure things doesn't go boom. Guys, the mods are supposed to make sure things don't go boom.
normal whip has some sort of rigidity. It's not completely flexible,
Exactly.
and it
Can
doesn't
it save his ass? Can it?
fold on itself. But in this case, the medium cable kept folding over the big one, and I was worried it was gonna prevent the whip from working like a whip. So I decided to quickly test it, and with that, I realized two things. The first is that the whip wasn't behaving like a whip at all. And the second is that the whip kept spanking me. And the crazy part is that
It will always go boom. The whip kept spanking him. Is that a problem, or is that just a an asset for it? The self-spanking whip. He made an invention to sell, honestly. Feature. Yeah, it's a feature. Exactly. He should sell this for thousands on the BDSM websites. Shut the fuck up, Ajay. I'm just saying. Take your failure and make money, boys. Shut up. Like, what? You're my failure, and I'm trying to make money off Luke.
even at that low speed, it was already hurting. So I had two problems to fix. The first one was fixing the whip so that it could go supersonic, and the second one was not getting spanked by the supersonic whip. So I tried first tightening the eyes, making them so tight they basically couldn't
At this point, is he doing it on purpose? Like, he's whipped himself a lot.
move. But even though the whip got slightly better, that didn't really work. Then my father came home and we found the welding machine. So he tried welding the connections, but as expected, the welding machine was way too hot, and it simply melted the wires of the cables. So I spent a while thinking about new ways of making the connections, and do you remember those clamps with dangerous spikes? Well, I decided to use...
Okay, I get this, but when you go to hardware stores, they usually sell these things by the meter and they cut it off. Couldn't he just go somewhere and try to find a 6-foot long one or something? I don't know.
those. The reason why I did that is because when I tried making
I get the different thickness down, but I don't know.
connection with this kind of clamps, I realized they were making the whip much more rigid than before, solving,
But
in
that
theory,
would make a whole YouTube video.
the spanking problem. Hopefully. Now, before testing the whip, I had the chain and the handle left. And honestly, I wasn't entirely sure if the chain was gonna exponentially increase the power, thanks to the weight, or simply
All
slow
you need is the metal thickness, the metal to be the same through. You could increase the thickness with a covering at the end. I don't know.
everything down because of the
You
weight.
know people into
Or
that?
even
Suspect. Thanks for the follow, Winwolf. Welcome
Of
in.
course, since the whip is already really long, the extra weight and length could make it way too hard to handle and much more dangerous. So, because of that, I decided to cut the chain in half. And then I used a climbing clamp to connect the two portions. The idea was try attaching half of the chain to the whip first, and then the entire chain,
Damn.
and see which one worked the best. Also, I know it doesn't look pretty, but my goal was making the most powerful whip, and not the prettiest one. And I'm sure he has a great personality. Anyways, I attached half of the chain to the whip, and I quickly wanted to test it, mainly to see if I was at least on the right path. And from this
I hope his
test,
dad's there with a 911 on the phone.
you can tell two things. One, I'm not really into fashion. And two, even with half chain, this was actually kinda working like a whip. And when I tried to crack it, this happened. So after quickly destroying a pomegranate and painting
Damn.
the house with it, I attached the second half of the chain to it.
Lucky he twirled it then and might have clapped his ass again.
Because I was confident that was gonna make it even faster. And even though I felt like my arm was about to fall off because of the weight of the whip, my technique was also slightly improving. And with the full chain, I got something similar to a crack. To be fair, it was not the classic sound of the whip. It was different. For now. The whip was picking up water from the ground and turning it into mist. I think because of how fast he was flying. And I know it looks
Okay, so what, is that why he was cracking his ass all the time too? Because he wasn't twirling as much at the end?
like I'm not happy about it. But I really was. It's just that the sound
Yeah.
this thing makes,
This is how I lost half a high ass cheek and now my wife is leaving me, the saga.
combined with the idea of it being a steel cable traveling as fast as a 9mm bullet, not that far away from my face. Well, it was unusual,
Ooh.
to say the least. I mean, what would you think if you saw some random dude using a supersonic chain whip in his backyard? Well, I was thinking the same thing. Anyway,
Well, we
Oh
know.
no, 22 months,
Hey,
oh no.
22
I mean,
months,
let's do
damn,
22
thanks for the
months
resub,
being a
Spaniard.
delinquent.
Spaniard 5 just subscribed. Upgrading their cell. Oh no, 22 months. Oh no, I mean let's go 22 months being a delinquent.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go. Delinquent gang.
before actually testing the whip and compare it to the normal one against all the targets, there was one more thing I had to improve to consider it complete. If you pay attention in the slow motion here, you see that the whip moves on the same plane till it gets to the connection of the big cable with the medium cable. And I wanted to fix that, because I believe that that movement was actually slowing the whip down. If
Interesting. I wish he would whip me. Just get behind his ass and you get whipped, underdog. Coming around. Ah, yes. What do people usually use whips for nowadays, I wonder?
you remember, I scrapped my first
Making the strongest whip.
design because I was worried about the lack of rigidity of the whip. But the chain is completely flexible and it's free to move in every direction. And still, it was
The person
perfectly
in the
working
chat
like
said. The person in the chat said they wanted him to whip him. Not me.
a whip. And so I started wondering, what if my first design with the switch sleeves was actually better than the new one? My hope is that with the old connections, everything was gonna be able to move in a fluid way, exactly how it was happening with the chain. So to find out, I tried making it once again. And even with half chain, this whip was not only working, but it was actually working better than the previous design. And my only explanation for the fact that now these kind of connections are perfectly functioning, and before they weren't, is that I was the problem, meaning lack of skills on my side. Then I tried attaching an even
It
smaller
was
cable.
me. I was the problem. It was me. I didn't say it. They said it. Chat said it. Blame chat. Blame the people in
At the
chat.
end of the tip. And for the first time, I got an actual crack out of it. The body of the whip,
Yeah, because I've seen them in horse shows sometimes. That it, but you don't really rip with them. You just make sounds to get them to move.
without the handle, weighs 4.2 kilograms or 9.25 pounds. And that makes it 7 times heavier than the normal bullwhip. It's probably
Hey
not
board,
the
hey advisor. Thanks for follow underdog. The time is 11 p.m. and we're watching how to whip a bitch. I mean, whip the world's strongest whip. That's what I said.
best looking whip out there. But with the eye connections, I felt it was looking pretty good. At this point, only the handle was missing.
Hey, oh,
And also the cracker. I mean, I
Welcome in,
actually
thanks
had
for the follow.
it before, but I think I lost it right after cracking it for the first time. So I left it without the cracker. What I didn't know is that that would have
Thanks so much for the follow. I'll use this. No, I'm doing this to put Luca into line, okay?
eventually
Luca
make the
needs to
whip
stop lying
literally
so much.
sound like a gunshot. And as per the handle, I thought about building one, but all my tools are like half Europe away, and I didn't want to use stuff.
Fuck it, advisor, I broke my chair because your last joke was so bad. Must you continue with this? We're whipping up a storm. We're whipping up a storm. I broke my chair because of how bad those jokes are, bro.
From my father's workshop to build one. So, I decided to use a wrench. And like that, the whip was finally complete. Now, I wanted to find out if the custom whip was actually more powerful than the normal one. And if it was, how much more powerful. And to do that,
I'm curious, how expensive are these plastic heads? I see them in a lot of these weapons guys and they have them. I wonder how much it costs for one.
I got a bunch of different targets. Starting from the softest, apple.
I don't know what I'd do with it. I guess I could set up a Halloween thing. But that's about it.
Then soda cans, pineapple and pumpkin, and I also got ballistic gelatin that I already used in another video, but I'm gonna use again because it's expensive.
I would assume so.
And then finally, a ballistic dummy. The plan was to test it
True. I wanted to do a silicone mold of something. I don't
to
know
whip
why,
against
but
all
like,
these targets,
always
and then
looks
compare
cool.
the damage. Alright, apples are
just
first.
put my head in silicone. Just dies. Streamer dies trying to mold their head in silicone.
So I'm
she
gonna
was a dipshit.
start with the classic bullwhip, and then I'm gonna try the chain one. It's like a 99% chance I'm gonna hit the table. Well, it's been a while since I
Table.
properly used the whip.
Foul. I only do streaming advice sometimes off stream in Discord. I don't do it on stream because it clutters up everything.
And
Don't
you
talk
can
about it.
clearly see the results.
200
But
USD, damn son.
After a few tries, I finally hit the target. Apple. I was expecting the whip to cut the apple, but it actually exploded instead. To be fair, I'm not sure if I hit it with the cracker or with the body of the whip, and my camera in slow motion doesn't give me much more information.
Oh, you can reuse ballistic gel? What, can you put
Then
it back
I wanted to
together or
try with the
something,
chain
or-
whip. The plan was to start gently, to be as accurate as possible. But at the
So
first
you can melt it and put it back into your cube. Okay.
attempt, this happened. And when I checked the damage on the table, I got excited for the whip, and also sad for the table. I dented the table, like... Let me show you. And in that moment, I realized that this thing might actually be more powerful than I thought. I did
Yikes, that could be
and
someone's
that theory
skin.
was confirmed on the next attempt. Well, it cracks now.
Damn, son.
So scary. That was the loudest crack I've ever heard.
Oh my god. You know what would be really cool to see go into a silicone head? A boomerang. You know what a
In my
boomerang could
life.
do.
You probably can't tell the difference from the camera, but it was way louder than the normal bullwhip. It basically sounded like a gunshot, and I believe it's the handle that made the whip much more powerful than before. And as a reminder, that crack means that the steel rope was flying faster than the speed of sound.
Damn.
That is insane. Well, what wasn't insane was my accuracy with it. Using this whip is pretty painful because of how heavy it is, and every time I cracked it, it was kinda pulling my entire arm and body with it. Moreover, I was shooting high to avoid destroying the table, but after trying for a while, I decided to just give up with the apple, and I moved on to the next, taller, and harder target. Soda can, leather whip. This time, I got a clean hit with the bullwhip.
I'm gonna be honest, you'd be a fool to give me a whip. Whoever gave me this was already an idiot.
And it kinda bended the aluminum, but it didn't
Yeah,
cut the
that's-
can. So I moved to the chain one, and like before, it made me dance for a while.
Imagine it being heavy, it's hard accurate. I'd like to see you prove I gave this to myself. I'd like to see you... Did my model stop? Yeah, there we go. I'd like to see you prove it. Prove I gave it to myself.
It is so loud. But then, after a few tries, I realized that if I wanted to crack the whip on the target, I had to aim a little to the left of it. And like that, I got it. And even though I still probably didn't hit the can with the cracker, the whip cut it in half. And I was really happy about it.
Dang.
The worst part is gone, with these small targets. It took me a while, and I lost an arm.
I lost an arm. Yeah, I imagine that's heavy as fuck. It reminds me of a lot of those Underworld movies where they had like whips for werewolves. Kind of like that.
You see the problem? Luckily now, we only got the big targets and then the ballistic gelatin. Let's do it. As usual, I tried with the bullwhip first.
I wonder if they eat the pumpkin afterward.
This time, I actually hit the target a few times. And that's because even if I hit the pumpkin clean, I basically did no damage to it. It basically just scratches it. You see? The chain whip was a different story though. The first hit wasn't clean at all. But it made me realize that this whip would be actually perfect to grab stuff. And I've been finding it useful, especially when I sit on my sofa and I forget to grab the remote control. Before, I used to stand up. Now I'm simply using my chain whip, and it's been working flawlessly.
Flawless! Flawless victory! No Pokemon word in this. Yeah, no Pokemon word, but something else. Oh my god.
Anyways, even with that first hit, the whip left a deep cut into the pumpkin. So then I tried again, and even though I left another big cut, I also realized something. This part of the whip is wet, but the cracker is totally dry. That means I'm hitting the pumpkin with that part. So before moving to the fancy targets, I guess I had to learn how to use the whip. This time I walked further away from the pumpkin. It doesn't really look like it from the camera, but I'm probably at 7 meters from the target. And this way I got 2 pretty good hits. The first one that almost broke the pumpkin in half, almost with the cracker. And then the second one...
Okay, so we realized like the whole, it's gonna wrap around it when he's closer, so... Skill issue. If she gets a whip, don't give. Yeah, I'll just whip it around, everyone going, get over here!
Cracker. And I left a nice deep cut with it. And even if my arm was basically just a dangling useless thing at this point, after quickly testing the whip against a pineapple and splitting it in half, I was curious to see what kind of damage the whip could do to the ballistic...
Bye pineapple! Give your nephews a whip, make their mom insane. She would absolutely kill me. They might kill me with the whip. Never give your nieces or nephews or any children something that they could kill you with, honestly. I'll give them the noisiest stuff ever, but I ain't giving them a whip.
Gel, and most
Nope,
important...
you can't whip me, because I'm a police officer, and that's against the law.
To the ballistic dummy. The ballistic gelatin should simulate the density of muscle tissue, but they usually test this against bullets, and also...
That jiggle! That's like my ass when you slap it! Right here.
Density of muscle tissue.
Wait for it.
But they usually test this against bullets,
My ass.
and also it doesn't have...
Sorry, that cannot confirm or deny if that's true. I was asleep. Nah, I slept like a pro,
Anyways,
bro.
I hit it first a few times with a normal bullwhip, and it just left a few light marks on it, but basically nothing. That's when I started to believe the gelatin might actually be much harder than skin. I still wanted to see what was gonna happen with the custom whip though, so I flipped the gelatin, and I also replaced the cracker of the whip with a brand new steel rope. And this time, I got a perfect
so the
hit.
end of the rope was actually starting to break. I've exposed. Shut the fuck up! No, I'm not reading that. Oh my god. Games where it's even play a character use a spike chain, it would end up whipping them in the butt. Oh yeah.
Right
nice.
away. Cracker left a deeper mark than the bullwhip, but it didn't cut the gelatin. And I honestly can't believe that's accurate. There is no way that wouldn't cut.
This one block is
And
500
so,
bucks.
I decided to
damn.
move right away to the ballistic dummy. This one not only has a layer of ballistic gelatin, but it should also simulate bones. Anyways, I tried hitting it with the bullwhip, and it did basically nothing to it. While for the chain whip, the first 2 hits kinda scratched the head of the dummy, but, at least apparently, I couldn't see any damage to it. Probably because
Kind of insane that a lot of the gun channels buy newer ones of these all the time, because they exploded.
I was looking at the wrong spot. So, for this one, I decided to change strategy. My plan was to hit the dummy 10 times, and then check the damage only after those. And honestly, I got a few clean hits. The problem is that from far away, I couldn't see any
Yeah,
damage
they
to the
usually
dummy.
do most videos with a sponsor because I don't think you can guarantee they won't get demonetized.
So I kept going. And even though my arm was about to fall off,
Imagine
I
getting
couldn't
sponsored.
stop
That's insane, bro.
thinking about how fascinating this thing is. It's insane that just by using physics in a certain way, you can turn a flexible stick into a supersonic flexible stick.
You can
And
turn a flexible stick into a supersonic flexible stick. But most weapons were like this, just trying to use gravity in a way to hurt people more. Would make everyone sad. I have a couple scars already, like on my finger. I have one for falling over in the rain.
The 10th hit, I checked the actual damage, and it turns out the damage was actually much higher than what I could see. Deep cuts and broken bones, basically everywhere. Cheekbone, top of the skull, right side of the skull, and a huge crack on the left side and the back of the head. And I think
Brain damage, for real. Playing with physics, you could turn a pebble into a supersonic pebble, exactly. The catapult, right there,
I kind of
baby.
felt it when I did that.
Walk
So,
it off,
to answer
bro,
the initial
walk it off.
question, this thing is a lot more powerful than a normal bullwhip. Next, I'm gonna build an insanely powerful slingshot and a very special katana. So if you like this video, subscribe to see when they come out. Also, big thanks to my first
yeah, I had
supporters
this
on
one on my
Patreon.
list for
Everyone who
ages to
supports me
watch at
gets
some
to see
point.
my videos one day before I release them on YouTube. And if you support me with $7 or more, you also get your name at the end of the video, like you see here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon with the next one.
I built a brick that crushes bones. I think I'll subscribe to him to watch some more of his stuff. I like these interesting me after a long game, brain damage, that's F. Oh my god, same bro. Oh my god. Me after any competitive game, bro.